welcome to Caesar Snack Sandwich. Today I have a really quick video for you on inverse bonding curve. Now this is kind of like, it's not really a protocol, it's not really a project. It's kind of more like some new experimental tech that people can kind of put to work here. Now this is definitely special. This is definitely very different than what you would see out there, and I think it's interesting. Now I'll talk a little bit about the use case that I see for this when I get into things a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to be using the docs here to kind of explain to you what this is. I don't have a flow chart for you. You don't really need one in a sense. Okay. And always, come and verify what I'm saying and what I believe is the truth based on this docs. Come and read it yourself. But let's get right into it and let's get this done. It shouldn't take too long, actually. So the first thing here, they talk about bonding curves. And if you don't know what a bonding curve is, I'll quickly explain it to you just by looking at this. You can set the bonding curve however you want. You can be exponential, linear, decaying, exponential, like whatever you want, right? And basically, the first person who comes to buys a token gets this price. The second person, let's say each of these is one person buying one token. So the first person buys, he gets this price. The second person buys, he gets this price and this price, and so forth. So as you can see, the later comers, they pay higher, they pay more, right? And what that actually kind of creates is a situation where the people who come late are exit liquidity for the people who come early. Okay, so in come the inverse bonding curve, which is like this idea to kind of mitigate that or to change that or flip the table, so to speak. Okay, so the first person who comes, like let's say the first person somewhere around here, so it's not all the way over there. So the first person, he pays quite a bit. The second person pays less and less and less and less. So the price of the assets, the price of the coin gets less and less the more people that join the community and join the system. Okay. Now, there's more tech to it than just the bonding curve. Another important thing about bonding curves is the issuance of tokens. They're single-sided in the requirements of the project to create the liquidity. So, for example, let's say this is a shitcoin versus Ethereum, right? So, if I can mint, like say, a million shitcoins, put them in a bonding curve, whether it's the regular bonding curve or whether it's an inverse bonding curve, with no ETH, right? Like I don't need to supply exactly 50% ETH and 50% shitcoin. I can just put it in there and then tell people that it's there, and then they will come with ETH and they will start putting ETH into this bonding curve, right? And the thing about these bonding curves is that ETH stays there. It's not exitable. I can't get that ETH out. So everyone who buys knows that there's ETH there waiting to sell back to. Okay, so that's kind of the ideas of these bonding curves. Okay, but this inverse one is very interesting. So it's like the people who are early pay more, and the people who are later pay less. But so why would the person come early then, right? The idea here is because of there are fees, right? So if we go to the fees, every time someone mints, which is akin, another way of saying buying from the bonding curve, every time someone mints, in this case, based on these settings, they pay 1%. And that like 1/4 of that 1% is going to the people who LP, and 1/4 is going to the people who stake. So you have two choices. Once you've minted the token, then you can either LP it, which is also single-sided, or you can just stake it in a staking contract. So just take it out of circulation. It doesn't say anything in here about whether or not that staking is a time lock or what have you, but I would think maybe there's some sort of time lock, or maybe like something like relics where like you can, the longer you're staked, the bigger pro rata share you get of this, like based on like if everybody's got the same amount. Okay, so anyhow, so that's how this inverse bonding curve works. And there's some interesting points here about this LP creation. Okay, so when you're an LPer, you come with the shitcoin and you just add shitcoin to the bonding curve, so to speak, right? And the reason why you would do that is you're going to get this LP fee, but you're also going to get some other interesting things. Okay, you're also going to have some other interesting effects. So you can kind of read all through this and talk like it's like you don't get a token, they're non-fungible, non-transferable. You have to close your position if you want to create another one. So they're very restricted in when you LP. It's kind of like you make your decision LP and then you have to use another wallet to do it again, or you close it down and open it up again. Moving down to where's that important part? Okay, so let's take a look at this graph. Okay, so when this is adding liquidity. So the red line is the bonding curve, right? And then the blue line is after you add liquidity, right? So when you add liquidity, you are in essence increasing the cost to mint. Because as you can see, like I'm increasing the depth of liquidity inside the bonding curve. So I'm increasing the cost for people to mint new tokens. So if I'm early and I want to increase the cost of people to mint, then I can add liquidity, right? And I'll get my 25% of the fees, and I'll increase the cost of adding of minting. And then I'm also decreasing the cost, or sorry, the return on investment when they burn. So if let's say if I mint and then you mint and then I add liquidity, then when you try to burn, you're going to actually get less. Okay, so I'll reiterate this in like one sentence. So when you add liquidity, you increase the cost of minting, but you decrease the return of like the return on burning. Okay, and then obviously the opposite is true when you remove liquidity. So when you remove liquidity, you decrease the cost to mint. So you make it cheaper to mint, and then you also increase the ROI of people to burn. Okay, so it makes it so if you think about it, like if you're pulling out your liquidity, then you probably are going to burn that liquidity, and you've just made it more ideal for you in the bonding curve for you to burn, right? So it's very backwards and unintuitive and interesting to kind of think about this. Okay, now there is also fees, the same fee structure on adding and removing liquidity. So obviously you got to take that into account when you're deciding to whether or not add or remove liquidity and the effects on the bonding curve that'll have. You're paying a 1% fee to do so. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this. Like I said, this is not a project, so to speak. This is kind of like a new concept that they've put out. They do have the smart contracts here and so forth, and anybody can kind of come and create a new bonding curve with their shitcoin and stuff. And I do think this is a very different way for like a new kind of shitcoin meme season, perhaps. Like this is definitely something that's different and very easy for anyone to provide liquidity. Like you don't need any upfront capital to create a liquidity pool. You just mint an ERC20 token, come here, pay the token, pay the fees to set up the gas fees to set up the liquidity pool, and then shill it, right? So I think it's going to definitely create a different kind of mindset in the sense of like if it gets utilized, if people start using it, it's going to flip the tables a little bit, and we can kind of see what happens and how the market reacts to this kind of idea. Okay, so it's interesting, that's to say the least. Okay, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. So obviously, there's a lot more here. I didn't cover like all of the maths and stuff like that, and you can dig deeper and really geek out on this if you want to. It's all here. All the contracts are listed. You can kind of dig in there and think about it. And like they do have some admin controls, but they say that they're planning on removing these admins in like once they realize that this thing is actually working. The first implementation is IB ETH, which is inverse bonded ETH. So use ETH to mint inverse bonding ETH, right? Okay, so that's it. Hope this has been interesting and useful, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.